All right, so our next speaker is Rick Stratton. Is sound okay for you guys, or is everybody else getting an echo as well?
Yeah, echo.
You got an echo? Stand by 1 second.
It's gone now.
Okay, all right. Rick, thank you for being with us today. Rick is a fire analyst with the U.S. Forest Service National Office, Fire and Aviation Management out of Missoula. His wildland fire interests include risk management assistance, otherwise known as RMA, geospatial fire modeling, long-duration fire support, fuel treatment design and effectiveness, risk assessment, and wildland-urban interface, home ignitability assessments and investigations. Let's get the presenter role transition to Rick. I see your screen. You should be good to go.
Okay, thanks. Hey, it's good to be with all of you. First, just want to thank Diane and Wes and everyone else who's put this on. It's been great. Russ, you had some cool stuff there. It was good to see, as well as the other presenters. I had to smile at Brent's little thing that said, "I didn't do it." You saw that in the dust on the vehicle. I feel that way with a lot of the stuff I'm going to be showing you today. I'm presenting it and have been helping influence this, but there's a host of analysts behind me that have been doing great work, and I'm grabbing what they have, and I would be completely sunk without them. So I definitely want to acknowledge folks like Lauren Miller with I'll show you the dashboard. She's integral to that. And then Dave Kalkenshop, like Kit O'Connor and Jess, who's now with Teams, just been helping so much with things, as well as Matt Jolly and Crystal Stonecipher. So would just want to send out a heartfelt thank you to them and definitely acknowledge them. So I'm going to go to the PowerPoint and get rid of my face here. Are you seeing the PowerPoint?
I've got it.
Okay, good. So I got to move fast, got 15 minutes. I'm providing this PowerPoint so that you can later go back and read some of this, because some of you know about RMA analytics and others you don't even know what that stands for. So I need to just give you a little bit of quick background. So this is a Forest Service initiative. We started actually when we started pulling Life First, when we had Life First and started polling the field and asking questions about where there's unnecessary risk. And that kind of gave rise to the 2016 inquiries, we call them. We picked a few fires and we're reviewing them. And then in 2017, RMA, which used to be RMAT, Risk Management Assistance Teams, was born. And we've been assisting different fires throughout the country for all agencies, 2017 and on. And I'll show you a little history on that in a minute. So, you know, it's very influenced by Life First in the beginning, but also by current policy and direction. You can see some of that there. So today I want to focus on, you can see the goal of RMA, and I want to focus on pre and post season and fire season, and then show you the analytics and the dashboard where you guys can interact with this stuff. My word, I'm trying to get this to go. There we go. So pre and post season things that we've been doing in the off seasons, potential control lines, working with folks with potential operational deletions, pods, helping to leverage and utilize quantitative risk assessments, taking this information to influence your development of strategic response zones, collaboration with different communities and partners to leverage these kinds of analytics. I've been continually talking with this Next Gen and those folks with the RDNA about how we can institutionalize some of these analytics that have been that RMA has been promoting, and then lastly, presentations such as this for training. And if you haven't, and trying to bring all these things together into a flow chart or a framework, I wrote this publication last year called entitled "The Path to Strategic Wildland Fire Management." That was in Wildfire, and if you haven't seen that, you could maybe get that a read. So for RMA, there we were, 2017. We helped with about 11 different incidents. This is when we were RMAT, so we were a team going to all those different incidents, and we were engaging with the line officers. Primarily, this is what the focus is, but also the team itself. And then in 18, a little more, but started to develop the virtual. And then in 19, it was all virtual, and 19 was those years that we all wish we had, the slower, quieter ones. And then 2020, You know what that felt like. I'm still feeling it. And we assisted with 66 different incidents, providing this information to them. And there were about 11 analysts that provided about 650 different products. So that was quite a year. Hopefully we'll never see that again, but as you guys know, we will. All right, so uses of these data. You know, it's in all phases of, I call it the life cycle of the fire. You know, that initial framing, operations, and long-term assessment, kind of reevaluating when things don't necessarily go as planned, and adoption to that course of action. Some of the reinforcing of the decision. Some people want to see this stuff to reinforce the decision or augment what they have. And then we're seeing the uses of these analytics in review and some investigation. So fire season support. Right now, we're trying to get more and more people to leverage the dashboard and less analyst support, because it's just a tremendous load and there's just so very few of us. So there's a tiered model. You know, right now with COVID, virtual is huge. It's pretty much the way we're operating. That's going to transition a little this year with as things have started to change. Sometimes we might even have a single rep there, an RMA rep, that can help with what these analytics are and how they're used. Other times we might want to do a trade-off analysis, which is one of the analytics, and it's a process. So we might have several people there to do that. I don't know if you'll even see a full team come this year. And then in some areas, we tried this out last year in PNW, we kind of had a regional RMA where we tried to give them all these kinds of things so that they could in turn develop their own products for their own use. So let me take you now to this risk management assistance dashboard, and I'm going to show you its functionality and then just walk you through each of the tabs. All right, so here's that risk management assistance dashboard. You can see the link to it at the top. If you just Google RMA, I think risk management assistance, and I think it comes up, or RMA and fire. And want to give a shout out to Lauren Miller for helping so much of this kind of thing. It's been great, and you know, we've had this about a year, and what we were finding is we just got to be able to get you this information a lot sooner in the development of the early stages of the fire decision and support, and not being reliant on just a few analysts to get this to you. So we continue to add functionality to this monthly. So this tab, I'm going to go back to, well, hopefully here we go. These tabs go from left to right, and this was developed with the line officer in mind, but there's been, you know, heavy use from FMOs, fire staffs, and folks on incident management teams, as well as analysts and planners. But we're just trying to keep it simple, and so that people could come here and quickly be able to access the information, and it would be intuitive. So that's the goal of this. So I'd encourage you sometime to read this. This gives a little background of RMA and what to do. You know, how to use the site. This is new. We just put this together last week. You know, a little bit about incident stats and product download. These are each of these tabs. A little bit more about the spatial map viewer. And then how do you overlay additional GIS information, and how do you print a map, and how do you access the data? You know, in the past we've been, you know, doing a lot of work with maps and sending them to people, but you know, we just can't. It's not sustainable, and so we need you to try to make your own maps. So this is that attempt. You can click here and you can get more information about the RMA program, or you can click over here and you can get information about the specific RMA analytics, and that's, once you click on that, that's what this brings up. You know, and I kind of call this the Rma menu. And I'll just quickly go through these, and we'll show you a few of these examples. You know, there's these timelines that we have, an incident timeline, resource, and personnel timeline. We have a little generator that can create some of these. We have this management direction alignment table. That's something that's takes a lot of time, but we look at lots of different products that are specific to the fire and see if you're in alignment with the RAN and resource management plan direction. There's a trade-off analysis. There's the aviation use summary. Crystal Stone Cipher is primary on this. And then there's the things that I think you're maybe more familiar with. The Suppression Difficulty Index, for SDI, PCL, which is potential control location, Snag Hazard, and ground evac. Ground evac is the same one you see in WFDIS. And then lastly, we've been adding a few more things, and one of those is the season ending analysis. that'll be something real slick that all of you will like. We should have this in here hopefully in the next month or two. Matt Jolly is a principal on that, and I was using it last year on all those fires, so I think it's ready to go. We just need to plug it in, and you'll love it. And then some of these exceedance probability curves, that's where we take the FS Pro, we take a risk assessment and try to look at loss. Sometimes that loss is lots of different factors, or sometimes it's just homes. So there's examples of each of these. So here's an example of the timeline. Gives you questions, answers, the purpose, what's in it, and then it gives you an example of it. This is one of those analyst developed timelines. So give that a read. If you want to pass that around, you know, it's a PDF form, you can pass it to folks, and then you can see what these RMA analytics are about. All right, so from going right to left, you know, this first tab is instance stats and product download. The second one is that spatial map viewer. That's where you're going to spend a lot of time in. This third one is that timeline generator. That fourth is, and then that kind of transitions. And I think of it this way. This fourth one is fire danger. So where are you in the season? You know, how does it relate to last season or historical? This next tab is, all right, you've got a fire in the landscape of concern. Is there severe fire that's predicted in the next week? That's what that tab's for. The next one is looking at a little more specifically, what are the specifics that have gone into like that severe fire weather. And this is great because it can pull up your fire behavior forecasting, can pull any watches or warnings, and then it also pulls up this matrix information that I think many of you have seen. So I'm excited to have that in here this year. And there's the season ending analysis tab. And then you click on this and you'll see the fire library, fire triage. The fire library kind of tells you what can you learn from the past, right? And the season ending analysis tells you when's the season going to end. Everyone wanted to ask that last year. And then last a few links to dashboards that are of use in Alaska. So let's walk through these. So the instance stats and product download, when we have had a formal request that we want analytics and what's on the dashboard, there are other things that aren't on the dashboard that they need, then there will be a RMA fire and they will show up in this download, this drop down. And so, you know, here's an example of one. It's called horse pasture. This is like around 5,000 acres, and they've almost got containment of it in North Dakota, I think. But you can get, you know, it's your typical dashboard information. And since it's behind, it hasn't reported much. But what I wanted to show you is once we have established this as an RMA fire, we're putting together some of this information that is not on this dashboard. Folks can click there, and then they can go and they can access the analytics from this site. And if you scroll down, you can see here's the incidents from last year, and you can see all the different data and the fires that were assisted. You click on that, and then you can start pulling down some of the information. So that's what that tab's for. The spatial products map viewer, this is the one that I think you could spend a lot of time in. I think you can leverage this on any fire. You know, it is our hope to have many analytics available in these areas, but you know, this stuff takes a lot of time to develop and a lot to when you consider a year like last year. So you can use these tabs down here, and you can go to your different geographic areas, and then you can use this tab here, and it'll bring you right to that geographic area. This will give you the exact legends, data that is available for that area. I was just going to look real quick. Tucson over here, north of Tucson, they had a big fire last year, corn. So I was going to just show you some of the things that you can actually leverage on fires in the coming year. So some of the, you know, this is some typical information you get from different maps, cities and highways, road systems, historical fires. But then here's the pod. You know, we've gone through and I've corralled all the different pods that I can find that have been developed, and they're, you know, in this area they're a little bit larger because there just isn't a lot of opportunity here in the wilderness area. But you can see those are the pod lines in purple. We also have some pretty cool stuff. You know, this is Microsoft Buildings. I think you're aware of this, but you can, here's that layer. Here's population density. This is something that we get from some great work by Joe Scott and the gang. And it gives you a sense of the density of populations, another overlay that's useful to give some relevancy to potential loss. We have VEERS on there, and let me show you the suppression difficulty. So this is that 97th percentile, and this would indicate, you know, those areas in red are indicated to the high difficulty to suppress the fire, and those blues are those, you know, a lower probability, lower difficulty to suppress the fire. Moving right along, here's control lines. So kids group, you know, they take that SDI and then they look at other features like where fires have historically lulled and spread in the past. And they have all that information with roads and moistures and fuel moisture, and combine all this together to look at, to develop this thing called potential control locations. You know, and if you look at these things in aggregate, it's pretty cool. So for instance, on the Bighorn fire, we're in that southeast corner, and you can see, well, here, let me zoom out a little bit. If you look up above, you can see how they were leveraging that pod line, weren't they? You can see them, if you zoom in, you can see them burning off of it even. Again, here, some of the areas that went to it, other areas that did not. Well, here's an area where, you know, it breached the pod line, and then they went to a PCL, potential control location, and started to gain containment on the fire. You can even see where they again burned off of the PCL. So this information can be, you know, useful for the management of the fire, but also for the operational management of the fire, as well as for framing the decision and how and the course of action. So that's potential control locations. Let me turn that off, and let me show you ground evac. So this is a neat product that's in with this, but it's a little bit harder to find in there, and we've been really trying to leverage it and show people its utility. And so you can see, you know, there's just nothing in this wilderness area here, the Catalina Mountains, and you know, it would indicate that if a person was harmed and needed to be taken out on the ground, it could be more than 6 hours to get them out. And so that's what this estimated ground evac product is all about, to get them to the care they need. Chuck McHugh has graciously is looking into updating this, and so we're excited about seeing what that's going to look like in the future. Right now we're serving this up, and hopefully we'll start seeing some stuff this year from his work. And then lastly, I think another one that is starting to be well known and is also developed from Karen Riley's tree list, Russ referred to that earlier, is this Snag Hazard Map. You know, we have a lot of problems these days with big fires, creating lots of snags, and we have problems with tree mortality, all sorts of stuff. So we have now developed these for a great deal of the U.S., and it just looks at snag hazard, and you know, those areas in red are those extreme areas, and those areas in green are less. And so we hope that these kinds of analytics can help people to make more risk-informed decisions, which we hope in turn will lead to, you know, improved outcomes. So we'll continue to add stuff here. If you guys got ideas of things we might need on here or tabs, we're open to that. So let's keep moving real quick. The timeline generator. We have different timelines and we have different ways of making them, but we have this little timeline generator that's pretty cool. Jim Edmonds, he's one of the programmers that's behind so much of this, just a great guy with the Forest Service. He's created this little timeline generator, and Reggie with RDNA helped develop this, and Morgan Pence has done so much with the RDNA on this as well. So this is recent products. All you do is put the fire number here and hit enter, and you get one. But let's look at this, because Savage Run Fire, gosh, how can you not like that fire's name? You know, this here's you put that in there, and immediately it'll give you a timeline with timeline information. I'd slow down and go quick and more detailed, but I can't. Sorry. Next one that I want to highlight for folks is this fire danger, and this is very recent. What you can do here is you can just click on your PSA, and it can give you fire danger information that those local areas are reporting. Some of it is NFDRS 2016, and other of it is you know, 78 and 88, using particularly ERCG. And so we could click on Southwest Oregon, where they have a few little fires, and you can see that it's not good right now. Potentially at its all-time high when you look at ERC. So goodness, they're going to have some fun potentially. All right, so what I like about this is people can just get a quick sense, you know, where are we in relation to maybe last year, but historical. It's very important that you understand where you are in the season. Then this next tab, severe wire weather, this is just sweet. This is by Matt Jolly. I think you all are aware of this. It gives you 7 days. You can click on that little toggle down in the lower left and it can pan you through. I've used this all over the West when it was, you know, alpha, and I've just been really impressed with its accuracy. And so you can see right now, you know, in eastern Montana and North Dakota, wherever that is, I don't even know if anyone even lives there. You know, it looks like it could be a little sporty the next day or two. So that's the severe fire weather. Again, something to give you an idea of what could be expected in the next 7 days. Here's one we added, and I've been working with the National Weather Service for several years, trying to get them to be able to develop these fire weather matrices and be able to get them available to us, so that we can use them to help inform our decisions. And so all you do is you just click on your area of interest. You could even overlay the fire perimeters, and you'll get watches and warnings. You'll get the fire weather forecast, not behavior, fire weather forecast. And then here's the one that I just really like. You can get a fire weather matrix, and that can give you the numbers behind some of this other stuff, that if it's severe or not. And you know, it goes by day, and then just look at all this stuff, and it's color coded. You know, red's bad. We all know that, and blue's good. Got to keep moving. Almost done. Next one is the season. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give you, it's 11:45, so 2-minute warning.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
awesome.
Almost done. The season ending analysis, this will be where you'll go in here and you'll create your own season ending analysis, like 5 minutes, and you got a term file. And I lovingly call this the Jolly Generator, because we got the timeline generator, we're going to have the Jolly Generator over here. And then these last three, you guys have seen the fire library probably. You know, this is where we host all this information about historical fires. We have to know where we are in the season, what's expected the next week. You know, look at some of those parameters that are influencing this, and when the season ends, but we've got to learn from the past. And that's what I'm trying to do here with the fire library. It's got the progressions, it's got long-term assessments, it's got reviews, investigations, you know, a host of information. And then the last one is that fire triage. It's under development right now, but that's really Matt Jolly's baby, and we're going to use that to look at the prioritization of fires. So right now it's going to just look at where the fire is going to go and what homes it could impact, and then have several fires within a particular unit, like a Forest Service unit or a GAC, that kind of thing. So that is it for my presentation. That was quick. You guys got questions, just shoot me an email.
That's great. Thank you, Rick. I know we're running low on time. There's been so much great information shared today.